Should we move on to talk about the Brexity things?
Yes,
yes.
let's do it.
This was Julian Folks, a retired police officer in Kent, suddenly had 6 police officers turn up at his house, rifling through his stuff, noticing books by Douglas Murray, noticing the Spectator magazine, one officer calling out that this man has very Brexity things. He was actually arrested over a tweet. He was having an argument with a sort of pro-Palestine type, and this triggered this bizarre police investigation. Tom, what have you made of it?
I mean, it's first of all, as soon as you saw that police rifling through someone's bookshelves and finding Brexity things and being alarmed by it, you know, chill ran down my spine.
Exactly.
None of us are safe at this point. As you said, the actual tweet that he was hauled in for and eventually cautioned for was condemning anti-Semitism. In effect, he was having this online row, and someone was talking about their participation in the marches and whatever. And he suggested that a lot of these activists were one step away from, you know, raiding Heathrow looking for Jewish passengers. It was a reference to what had gone on recently in Dagestan in Russia, where you had that kind of would-be pogrom kickoff because they found out that there was a flight incoming from Israel and they all sort of showed up in force. So it was a anti-racist, anti-Semitic tweet, and yet the Met Intelligence Command got a hold of it, passed it on to Kent Police, and they show up at this guy's house, mob-handed, going through with the evidence bags. You would have thought he was involved in organised crime or something. Like the amount of police presence was absolutely insane. I think that the extra flavour here, of course, is the body cam footage and them going through and finding the materials that you say and commenting in passing about how very Brexity it is, as if, you know, more than half the country didn't vote for that not too long ago. It was one of those cases which I think has hammered home how this could happen to almost anyone at this point because of the fact that the police are essentially just out to lunch on this issue. Like, they don't even understand the laws they're supposed to actually enforce. I mean, he was given this caution, which he acquiesced to, but it's now been scrubbed from his record as soon as the Free Speech Union got involved. He broke no law whatsoever. So even if we wanted to have a discussion about how bad our speech laws are in this country and the craziness that is 30 people a day now being arrested for grossly offensive speech under communications legislation, what's a huge part of this is the fact that the police are just grabbing this with both hands. They're relishing this role that they have for themselves. I think a large part of it is the fact that they see this as a way to improve their image, a way to kind of be seen as on the side of the righteous and whatever, and to rebut a kind of a slightly dodgier legacy they might have had in the past. But the upshot of it is people having less trust in the police and being much more fearful about someone showing up at their door as a consequence. So it's just, we've become inured to these stories, and yet this one I think is cut through just because of how egregious it was, I suppose.
Yeah. Esther, what do you...
I mean, I think it's the reason why the police are excited to go after these cases is because it's easy. It's like low-hanging fruit. I mean, you actually have to stand outside of Wetherspoons in the freezing cold on a Friday night to, you know, rip apart a fight between Mitch from Mitcham and Eggy from Skeggy. You actually have to put in some work to do that. But if you're combing through tweets to find out who to arrest, like, you know, a Telegraph journalist, for example, or an ex-police officer, that's easy. Just turn up at the door, make some vague comments. So I think it's low-hanging fruit. I don't think actually there should be any kind of room in the duty of police officers to comb through tweets and arrest people. I mean, unless you have a consistent track record of calling for violence or stalking behavior or actual criminal behavior that looks like it's threatening to the public, not people's feelings, but actual to the people's physical health. I don't think that's the police's business. I feel like it's quite embarrassing. And we're now developing a reputation as a country, shockingly so, as one where people are terrified of what they say in public because they can have the police, who really should be doing better things like solving a burglary, which, you know, many police officers haven't done in 3 to 5 years. Why are we becoming a country that is more scared of posting things on Twitter than actually someone burgling our house and getting them caught and sent to prison?
And it's interesting, the speed of the response. You know, you're right, Tom, to say they really relished this. I mean, it was within a day or so of the of Kent Police, being informed by this Met Intelligence Unit about this tweet, that they really, you know, they went to his house. They had 6 officers, and there are so many. You know, seeing the footage of a lot of these cases, it was similar with, Maxie Allen, the Times radio producer, who basically had done nothing more than slag off a school governor in a private WhatsApp group. Again, you know, a big crowd of officers turning up at the house, as if you're going to have to, you know, wrestle with them, or, you know, dealing with someone actually dangerous. It's really shocking.
And the way in which they kind of turn around after the story gets reported or after more light is shone on it, and they say, "Well, we've apologised," as if it's nothing. to put someone in a cell for hours on end, which happened with Maxie Allen and also happened with this gentleman down in Kent. Julian Folks was talking about the fact that he was petrified that his neighbours would think he was like some kind of paedophile or whatever, because they were like pulling hard drives out of his and laptops out of his house in evidence bags and so on. Like the level of the sort of police harassment of ordinary people for no other thing than expressing an opinion, even a perfectly legal opinion under the very narrow bounds that we have in this country, is a horrendous state of affairs. And yet it's just become kind of normal. Oh, we just went a little bit over the top. And I think one thing that's becoming really clear is so much of this is coming from within the police themselves. There was often this slightly more sympathetic take, which is, well, they're enforcing bad laws set by politicians, and ultimately it's the politicians' job to put this right. They're going above and beyond that all the time now. You even saw it periodically where they would launch these campaigns. There was a police in Merseyside, the shop outside Nasda, with a big sign saying, being offensive is an offence. Please come forward and tell us if someone said something that's upset you, or what have you. Like they're trawling for this stuff now, either on their own systems or asking people to report.
Merseyside as well, like Scousers are like professionals at defending each other. It's like a cultural stamp of approval.
They would never do anything
to get the best job in there.
They're making work for themselves and not doing anything else. But it's and I think there's obvious reasons for that. We've talked a lot about it on this podcast on Spiked, but I think particularly kind of post McPherson, post the Met being declared institutionally racist and whatever, they took precisely the wrong lessons from that. Yeah. Which was not that, of course, we should investigate all things without fear or favour, but was that we need to get into the business of policing speech. And that actually that's how you rebuild trust with particular communities who might have been failed in the past. Like as if, whether it's the Jewish community in this case or the black community in another case or whatever it might be, that they're going to get a warm feeling because they know that you're going after pensioners for saying unclear things on the internet rather than making sure that their kids aren't robbed or stabbed on the way home from school. Like it's absurd and obscene, but it's the message they seem to have taken from the past 20 years or so.
And the other thing you've alluded to there is the sort of non-crime hate incident. It's the sort of policing tool that never dies, that has been, there have been court cases over it. The High Court said you should stop recording these things. Various Home Secretaries have said the police need to stop recording this. It carries on anyway, and there are, I think, is there 50 a day recorded or something? There's certainly more than the level of arrests, and sometimes over the most preposterous things imaginable. I mean, some of my favourite cases are when, talked about this before, but when a gay man complained that his drug dealer had ripped him off because he'd been gay, or the man who felt that he was given an aggressive haircut by his barber. Or
that bloke who's whistling Bob the Builder.
Whistling Bob the Builder, that triggered a non-crime hate incident. So as you say, the police are all over this. They're going way, way above and beyond the law. They see it almost, it's become their guiding purpose almost to get themselves involved in sort of minor disputes and in correcting how we think and what we say.
I mean, this is just adds to the public perception that there's so much wrong with, of course, public life in Britain, but especially the police. I mean, to the extent that police are clearly prioritizing easier, low-hanging fruit cases that are really, I mean, there should be no such thing as a non-crime hate incident. Like if it's not a crime, it's not the police's business. You shouldn't have police, jumping at the scene just to arrest someone over a tweet. But even more so, like standards have fallen through the floor. It's a lot harder to recruit quality policemen. You have, direct entry superintendents that have never even policed a bar on a weekend, that don't know anything about the basics of policing. This emphasis on communication and nice views, like even down to the physical health of police officers. Like loads of them are overweight, and they're just like they're not imposing
content. But
it's true. It's true. Or like sometimes the complete lack of common sense. I mean, have you seen that clip of these two female police officers trying to arrest this criminal, and he just like nudges one of them with his elbow and runs off? I mean, it's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. And I've had incidents where I've called the police literally for a semi-nude, and I'm talking like I'm seeing the entirety of his bottom half, like man, completely drugged up, high, sitting there with a wine bottle, like intimidating women. And they sent two female police officers, and they came and told us, we've ordered an ambulance in case he needs help. The complete lack of common sense of police officers. This is why when they boast that incidents of crime or crime reporting has gone down, it's because the public don't have faith. They don't believe you can do anything. They see you more keener on arresting people over tweets than actually going to solve crime.
You just need to say that man was in possession of a Brexity book.
Exactly.
That had really sent the heavies down.
He misgendered me. Yeah.
That's the way out.